and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And this is Mark Florence.
And today we're talking about Parasite. This movie is nominated for Best Picture, and that's amazing because, guess what? This is a horror director who has done so many movies that we love and respect, including The Host, Mother, Okja, to name a few. And Mark, I think this is the first movie you've seen of his.
What's The Host? I may have seen that.
No, you didn't. It's you're thinking of the Stephenie Meyer movie, and it's not.
Sorry about that. No. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're so simple. Just kidding. You're not simple. It's just that, a couple movies have that title.
I guess I'm just simple like the family in this movie.
No, yes, but guess what? That is a reference. So we are going to get into spoilers, and so here's the spoiler. P.S. This movie deserved to be nominated for Best Picture, I believe.
I just want to say before even knowing anything about this movie, which is the best ever, like going into a movie knowing nothing is the best. But I knew it was nominated for Best Picture, so I had a very high expectation.
Okay, so did that affect your judgment of it, do you think?
Unfortunately, I think it did. But, it was very, very, very good. And it deserves to be nominated. But, when you know something's been nominated for Best Picture of the year, you put it on like a certain level.
So my thing with it is, I also knew it was nominated for Best Picture, but I am anti, and I've seen these movies, or partially seen, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Joker, and they're fine, they're great, but I personally feel like this movie is superior. And Mark, you don't feel the same way?
Oh, we just saw Joker the other night. Joaquin's performance was absolutely brilliant. I mean, spoiler alert, I think he's going to win Best Picture.
You mean Best Actor?
And, well, yeah, he should win Best Picture because he is the movie.
Yikes. Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, he's a great actor. But, I think this story is amazing. So, what are your thoughts?
This movie's really about class, like, high class versus low class. And they do a lot of, like, they really showcase, like, their house at the beginning and, like, just how much of, like, poverty they're living in. Like, the toilet's up on this, like, weird, like, second level. There's, like, bugs in their house. They have nothing to eat. They're basically, like, eating bread with bugs in it, and they're, like, folding pizza boxes for a living. So anything, any step up from there is definitely a huge step up.
Yes, and so this son gets the opportunity to tutor this rich daughter, and he takes it, and it's like, of course. And he sees the opportunity for his sister to become an art tutor for this family, and he's absolutely going to take it because they need the money coming in.
Yeah, it seemed like real easy for this family to just like sneak into this other family's life. I mean, it was pretty cool to see like how they did it, but I don't want to get negative on this movie right away, but it was kind of hard for me to believe that a family that could be this like creative and like have this much ingenuity to like infiltrate this other family could be in like the depths of poverty. But maybe that's just how it is over in Korea. Like they said, like an entry-level job at like a college, there'd be like 500 applicants. So maybe it is like that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely showed how difficult it is to get a living wage. And so this son starts tutoring this sophomore, And he's doing it as a favor to his friend, but he falls in love with her, quote unquote, pretty quickly, and she falls in love with him. He gets his sister a job pretending she's an art therapist, and she cons the wife into believing like, I know more about you than I probably do. She is all of a sudden tutoring the son, and it goes on from there. Like, she plants her underwear in the car, and pretty soon her dad becomes the driver.
Yeah, they have it all sort of planned out. Dad becomes a driver, and then he, kind of figures out a way to tell. And then the hardest person to get out of the house is the housekeeper who's been there from before the family, but they know she's allergic to peaches, so they keep like sprinkling like peach dust on her, so she's coughing and showing signs of like tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. So they do a pretty elaborate thing to prove, like I think the dad takes a selfie at the hospital, and he's like, "Oh, isn't that her in the background?" And then he says he heard her talking about something about tuberculosis. And then they do the peach thing again, and they come home, and she's, like, coughing, and then he, like, pours some, like, hot sauce on, like, this thing she was coughing on, and he, like, shows it to her, like, there's blood on it, so then they have to get rid of her, but then the wife tells the husband that she quit, so it's pretty good way to get her out of there.
Yes, because she didn't want to alert her husband because he's kind of a jerk, and it's so good. Like, think about the movies with tuberculosis. Moulin Rouge being a classic, like Nicole Kidman's character, spoiler alert, she's dying of TB or consumption as they used to call it, and you're coughing and here's the blood-stained cloth. And think about Doc Holliday in Tombstone. Like, it happened, people. And so to be this naive housewife seeing this happening and you do not want to infect your children, of course, like, let the person go and don't let your husband know because you don't want to alert him or, have him be angry at you. So it's such a clever way to let this woman go. So all 4 family members are now absolutely 100% employed and making so much money in this house. And they're going to have a party because the family's away on vacay. They're going to go camping because the son is obsessed with American Indians. And they're going to camp. Mark, what do you think about that?
So one thing I'll say really quick is I forgot about this rock. Like this rock of wealth that the guy brings to them in the beginning, which I don't know if it has any powers or if it is just all in their mind, but like they hold this rock in like very high accord. So I don't know if it has any magical powers whatsoever or if it's just all mental. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's mental personally, but sometimes things that you believe can have power over you and influence how you act.
Yeah, once they get this rock, like everything in their life starts changing. Like the guy who brings them the rock is the guy who asks the son to tutor, and then that's pretty much where everything goes from there. Then the daughter gets the job, and then the dad and the mom. So I think the rock has the power.
Yeah, at least mentally. And so they go on this camping trip, and it's like, guess what? Let's party in this empty house. It seems like a great idea. And I said, Mark, what's going to happen? You probably know.
It's never a good idea to just like party and get drunk in somebody else's house. Like, it's never going to end well. Inevitably, somebody's going to come home early or something. But it made for a very cool scene. Well, first of all, the ex-house keeper comes over. She keeps ringing the bell, and they let her in. And then they get into this huge twist in the movie where the ex-housekeeper's husband is actually living in the secret passage thing in the basement. so he hasn't been fed in a long time. So it's like, it's like this huge twist and this huge like watershed moment in the movie where like everything just starts going weird. And I think she gets the husband, or like they're downstairs, and then all of a sudden she figures out that this whole family is in on this huge plan together, and that she videos them with her phone. And that's a pretty cool scene where it's almost like they're fighting over the gun, because she's like, I'm going to push sand on this to out them to the family.
Yeah, she's basically holding them hostage because I'll send this to the wife and they're going to know that you're all together.
Yeah, so they're like backing away with them. Like usually in a movie you see a hostage situation with like a gun to somebody's head, but it's like she's backing up with her husband with like her phone pointing at them with like her finger by the send button. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
And they compare it to a finger on the nuclear weapons in North Korea, which is, a completely prominent in their minds, and of course always in South Korea.
Yeah, I thought that I didn't quite catch all that, but her husband was like hiding from loan sharks, I think. So that's why he was like hiding and like presumably dead. But yeah, then they kept bringing it back to like North Korea. So I didn't know if he was in trouble with the North Koreans or something, but it's pretty interesting.
Yes. So this plot takes the twist, and then of course all of that business is happening, but the wife calls and says, hey, can you make this meal? We'll be home in basically 8 minutes. And so they need to cover all of this up very quickly in a very short period of time.
I think we've all been in a situation in our life where like you have to do something really quick. Like your mom's like, yeah, I'll be right home, when you thought you'd be home in like, 2 hours or something. So I don't know if you've ever had that or not, Kelly.
No, of course. Like I feel like it's all the time. Like you just need to, it's this time, I need to get this done.
Or yeah, even if you're having people like come over, stay over or something, and you think you got a little time to clean up your house, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we'll be there in like 10 minutes. You're like, oh boy. And then you got to clean up all your booze bottles and all your broken glass and just put it under under your table, right?
Oh, is that what it is? No.
In this movie it is, though. In this movie it is, yeah.
Yeah, truly. And so it is so stressful, edge of your seat. They're literally hiding under a coffee table, and the son's just like, oh, I'm gonna camp outside. Like, you think it's gonna be fine, and then he wants to camp outside, and the auntie gets upped.
Yeah, so they end up all, last second family comes home, they have to hide under the table. Or actually, I think they're like coming out of the basement and the family's coming down, so they have to hide under the table in the living room. And the son goes outside, sets up his teepee, and sleeps in it. And they're like, okay, we're just gonna sleep on the couch, like 3 feet from where they're all like laying under the table. So
it's so stressful, but they sneak out, not without consequence, because as the father is literally dragging himself out, the son wakes up and talks on the walkie-talkie, and he's got to freeze. They don't notice him, but they get out. The next day, it's the birthday party.
I just want to say really quick that they keep making this point that she ordered this tent from the United States, so it should be like a very good quality and like should not leak or something.
Yes, it's like it's not from China. It's from the U.S., so it's made in the USA. And yeah, that's kind of ironic and it's So the next day, she's throwing this impromptu birthday party, and she's telling everyone no gifts, and it's just a small thing. But guess what? They need the tutor there. They need the driver to bring her everywhere to pick everything up. they need the housekeeper to prepare all of this business, and they need the other tutor because he's important to the daughter. And so every single family member is involved, and it becomes this extremely important final climax of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you already said this, but they go literally from going, and it was like literally like upper class lived up higher in the city, and like lower class people lived down lower, and it was like raining, and that's what, it was like pouring rain. That's why they had to stop camping and come home early. But like literally all the water and crap drained downhill, and when they got back to their apartment, it was like flooded, like 4 feet of water in there. So I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I even got that analogy.
Yes, like they had to. They spent the night at a shelter, and they were trying to find clothes that would fit them in order to fulfill their obligations to this rich family. And they already have it in their minds that they smell like poor people, and so they were kind of, cognizant of it or even paranoid about it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, actually. Like, a huge theme in this movie is, like, the smell of, like, how a lower-class person smells versus, like, an upper-class person. And, like, it got really, like, personal for, like, the lower-class people in the end, and actually ended up with the dad of the lower class family, like killing the dad of like the rich dad. So, I mean, that's some personal shit.
Yes, and you don't even think about that necessarily. But, what is it? Like if you come in contact with a person who doesn't shower every day, or someone who is homeless versus someone who showers every day or has the means to scent themselves in a certain way.
In the son of the rich family, even like he like smelled the mom, they smelled the dad, and he's like, they smell the same or something. And like, they're obviously all in the same family, but to like the rich family is like, oh, come on, you're being like that or whatever. But he was right.
Yes, because they were using the same detergent or soap. And so they were trying to, think about how can we change it up so that it's not so obvious.
But I think they figured out that since they lived underground, they just had like that like basement smell. So nothing you can really do about it.
Yes, and that's true. Like we used to have a basement where we used to live. And if things were stored down there, it had a basement smell. Like it's just truth.
There is a basement smell. So don't leave stuff in your basement too long. It'll get the basement smell.
This final climactic scene, it's the birthday party for the son. They're saying, oh, guess what? Dress up as American Indians, and Jessica will bring out the birthday cake, and, we'll pretend to attack her, and then someone will pretend to attack her, and then we'll save her, and it'll be this amazing moment. But the truth is, this husband who's been living in the basement comes out and stabs her and, spoiler alert, kills her. And, we see the results from that. And it's so well done. Like, the father is like, I don't know if I want to do this. And the rich father is like, I'm paying you extra for this, so, like, deal with it.
For what? For like driving him to the hospital, or what do you think?
No, he's saying I'm paying you extra to like be here today for this birthday party.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry.
And so all of this goes down. The daughter gets stabbed, and then the father and the guy from the basement are fighting, and the father of the boy is saying, give me the keys, like, let's go. And the other father is saying, no, I need to basically take care of my wife and daughter. and son. Like, he's looking out for his family, and it's like priorities.
Definitely, yeah. At the end, it was like, do I want to, like, break my cover, or do I want to, take care of my family? That was a tough situation for everybody. And then when he smelled the guy in the basement, that was when it was too much. So he ended up killing the dad.
Oh, yes. And so the father, the poor father, ends up running away, and no one knows where he goes. But of course we know, because we've seen the movie. He hides out in this basement, which is unknown to anybody else except, our main characters. And he's able to hide and connect through Morse code, which I'm not familiar with. But were you a Boy Scout, Mark?
I was actually in the Cub Scouts, I think, for 1 year, maybe 2. We met at my neighbor Nick Wall's house, and we would literally, like, rush through the activities so we could go play, like, Nintendo.
No! Okay, I was in Brownies and Girl Scouts for a bit. And, I was trying to earn badges and all that business. But weren't your parents, like, scout leaders, and they did something problematic by today's standards?
I think we have already talked about this on a podcast, like,
we have
a couple years ago or a year ago, but it's a great story, so I'll tell it again. So my mom and dad were Cub Scout leaders for my brother Jeff. So we had all these people, like, I don't know, first, second, third grade over or whatever. And they had just started, it was around Halloween, and they had a bonfire in the woods by my house. And they told this story about how this guy used to live out on this land, and the county had to kick him off, and he was all upset, and he said he'd, like, haunt the land forever. But then they had my neighbor, unbeknownst to any of us, even me, hiding in the woods with, like, a lantern. And, like, right when they got to, like, the climax of their story, he turned on the lantern, he came out, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Hey!" And, like, everybody just, like, ran out. I was super scared, and one of the kids in the Cub Scouts, like, peed his pants. Like, it was a bad deal, so.
I mean, this is absolutely, like, a suing situation, or, like, absolutely firing. They weren't leaders after this, were they?
And I don't know if this is the true story, or, like, just, like, I don't know what's the right word.
A recollection, or I can't think of it either.
Sorry, but supposedly, like, the next week, my parents went to this Cub Scout training thing, and they're like, the most important thing you can do is make sure you don't scare the kids and make sure they feel safe. So, yeah, but no, I think they went out the year, yeah, but no, my Cub Scout career didn't last very long. I think I brought the book home the first night. I'm like, I'm going to get all these badges, and I never did much of it, so I'm a failure.
Oh, that's too bad. I know several Eagle Scouts, so,
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the most impressive.
Is there a correlation between being an Eagle Scout and being, like, successful in life, or not?
The Eagle Scouts I know are successful, so.
Well, I guess that explains it all then.
There you go. What else do you have to say about Parasite?
So, should I know Morse code since I was a Cub Scout, or do you know Morse code, or do you know anyone who knows Morse code?
I don't, but apparently it's important because in this movie it played a vital role.
Definitely, yeah. It seems like it'd be really hard to, like, actually, like, know it. I don't know. It's, like, really fast, like beep, like beep, 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 beep. I don't know, whatever.
But if you're going to write it down, just like any other language or sign language or anything, like, you have to deal with it, Mark. Like, just go with it.
I hear you. I hear you. If my life depended on Morse code, I'm sure I could learn it. At the end of the movie, the son had a brain injury and he was laughing like the Joker. So I thought that was kind of interesting because the Joker had this like laughing condition.
There you go. There's a tie-in. I think, I mean, I know that you've already stated your feelings about it, but, okay, well, obviously Joaquin Phoenix is a brilliant actor, and I respect him and love him, and I think his performance in The Joker was amazing. But, you know, it was an interesting correlation between those two movies that sometimes, like, you laugh even though you intend not to.
Yeah. Sometimes all you can do is laugh when bad things come at you in life.
Oh, try to find the good side of things. Yes. What else do you have to say about this movie?
So another example of like the rich versus the poor, like the class thing is like their apartment was literally flooded because it rained so much. And the rich wife was riding in the backseat of a car looking up at the sky going, "Oh, it's so nice that it rained last night because it cleared all the pollution out. Now it's a nice sunny day for my son's birthday." So it was like a nice like juxtaposition of like, you know, what certain people care about.
Yes, and truly, what does it mean to be above and below? And so this is a comparison between that movie Us and this movie. Us did not get all of the accolades that I think it deserves because it was amazing, but it's another reminder of the haves and have-nots, as is this movie. And Lupita Nyong'o was robbed of an Oscar nomination, in my opinion, because what an amazing portrayal of two distinct characters.
I think Us should have gotten some nominations. Did it not get many, or?
Nope.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So, the title of the movie is Parasite, which I think is a brilliant title. Like, not knowing anything about the movie and then seeing that it's called Parasite, I just figured it was about, like, some, like, parasite bugs or, like, some huge, like, creature or something. But it's really about, like, this family that's, like, a parasite to another family. But then it's, like, in the bigger picture, like, who's the real parasite is, like the upper class, like, a parasite of the lower class, like, taking advantage of them, or like vice versa, or what do you think?
Yes, I absolutely agree. It's like, who is the real parasite? Are the rich feeding off the poor because we're draining them of their resources and their time and their energy? Or are these poor people being the parasite and getting all this money and resources from the rich family? And so I too went into this completely blind, and I thought, because I had seen The Host by the same director, I was like, oh, Parasite is probably going to be about like an actual parasite creature. But it wasn't, and I loved it so much.
Yeah, no, that was honestly like a perfect title for the movie. One other random thought is the fruit extracts they have in their basement. Is that like a high class like drink over in Korea?
Probably. Like, remember when we went to South America? Like, there's so many more fruit juices than we have in the U.S. Like, we don't even know what we're missing because, well, we're in northern United States, northern Minnesota, and so our fresh fruit is not the same as other people's fresh fruit.
That's true, yeah. So I thought it weird that like they had these like huge glass jars, kind of like pickle jars in their basement, and like their juice was like you just like pour the juice out of there and drink it. So that was, you know, a little different to me. The dad's company was called like Another Brick. It was called like Another Brick, like a tech company, like another brick in the wall. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, was it a Pink Floyd reference? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think it was. Another random thought, but they had the house was amazing. Like some sweet architect built it, but their backyard was awesome.
What did you like about their backyard?
Just like the trees, like they had all these like huge, like different green trees, and it was just all green, and it's just awesome. And it was like the complete opposite of the other family who like literally had to watch this drunk dude take a piss outside their window every night.
Yes, speaking of juxtaposition, it truly, they could look out and just see nature versus people puking in the alley outside their house. It's so true. Also speaking of backyards, I just heard a public radio story about how in northern Minnesota people have backyard ice rinks, and it encourages hockey and encourages people becoming professional hockey players. And I have known through some professional connections people who have literally moved to northern Minnesota in order for their children to become professional hockey players. Like, that's kind of interesting, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's a hotbed of hockey up here in northern Minnesota, and yeah, I think they moved to War Road. Mm-hmm. Yeah, War Road. I think it was TJ Oshie's parents I Kelly knew. So he's like a, all-star NHL player now. So that's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And so, yeah, we have a lot of hockey history up here. But back to Parasite.
So I think we already talked about Morse code, but the guy was literally like, he was like tied up, but he was like headbutting this like light switch to like do Morse code. Mm-hmm. That's why his head was all bloody. So that was pretty crazy.
It was intense, and he was able to get free of the duct tape enough to do that Morse code, and wow.
And then one thing I thought that might come into play a little bit more was like the son's who was tutoring the daughter's like relationship with the daughter, because he like wanted to marry her, but then he realized like, well, if I marry her, then my parent, I'm gonna have to like give up my parents. Like, they're not really the driver and the housekeeper, they're really my parents. So then he kind of like bursts his balloon, I guess.
And at the end, we don't know exactly what happened. I mean, they have the theory or the idea of what they want to eventually happen is that he's going to become rich enough to buy that house and they can let the dad out. But we don't know what happened to the mother and children, because assuming they moved away, and we don't even know where they went, because, I mean, after this trauma, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you just see some like other family living in the house. So, I mean, I guess it really wasn't about the rich family. So to me, that just told me it was really about the other family. So it's kind of an awkward, like, quasi-sex scene with the rich family, the dad and the mom on the couch, and like the other people like laying under the table like 2 feet away with like, they didn't really have sex, but they were like starting to do stuff, and like those people are like 3 feet away, so that was pretty funny.
Yikes, I know. And then I thought, like, when I was watching, I'm like, oh, are they really sleeping, or are they just closing their eyes and trying to block it out? But they were absolutely trying to block it out, because, like, what would you do?
Oh, that's I've never been in that situation. Have you?
Absolutely not. Thank goodness.
But have you ever been in a situation where like you're like stuck somewhere and like people are just like living their everyday life next to you, and you just like want to get out of there, or not?
No, I can't say that I have. Have you?
The closest thing I've ever been was like when I think I talked about this, and we were like toilet papering somebody's house, and they came home.
That's not the same, but okay.
I think I already talked about that. I won't tell it again. So,
but yes, I mean, I'm sure people have, though. Like, how do you deal with, neighbors or roommates or whatever?
But like if you're, like 8th grade, whatever, and like somebody's parents come home and you're not supposed to be there or something, and you're just kind of like hiding and awkward. I'm sure that's happened to everybody.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, that definitely could be a thing.
The last thing I had is like a profound statement from the dad when like everything was going bad. Everything was real bad in the beginning, and then it got better, and then it got worse. And then he said, like, if you make a plan, like, if you actually make a plan, like, nothing works. But if you don't make a plan, like, stuff just, like, happens. So, and then he's like, nothing actually even matters. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's actually kind of good advice, because it's like low expectations, basically. Like, if you don't set the bar high, if you don't expect anything, then what's the worst case scenario? And you've been saying this lately, P.S., because of the Minnesota Vikings. Like, if you just expect them to lose, then anything other than that is a joy. And so, basically don't make a plan, don't expect anything, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, a guy in the Power Trip morning show, he was in the Army or something, and he had cancer, and he actually passed away, but his thing was it's called HALE, HALE, high aspirations, low expectations. So you aspire to great things, but if you have low expectations. So if you actually reach those, you'll be happy, but if you don't, it's okay. So, I mean, I think that's the gist of what he was saying. So, HALE. I can't remember his name, but very inspirational guy.
You know what? I think that absolutely fits this scenario. Yep. So let's rank this movie on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie. What should our scale be? It has to be that rock, right? The rock that brings wealth?
I might go with the bubbling toilet.
No.
During that scene where like everything was flooding and that toilet was just like bubbling over. I don't know.
Okay, we'll use that because you said it. But I read earlier today that bubbling toilet, they used a mud mask in order to do that. So, like, thank goodness, obviously, they're not going to use real sewage. But, like, mud masks that you put on your face in order to, cleanse and hydrate, they used a mud mask in order to replicate sewage. Out of 0 to 10 mud masks, overflowing toilets, how many do you rate Parasite?
I'm going to give Parasite 9 bubbling toilets. It was really good. I honestly had no idea what the movie was about going in. I had a reasonably high expectation knowing it was nominated for Best Picture. But, some people have a problem with like a subtitled movie that's in another language, but you just had to put your phone down, really like pay attention. It was really good. It was really like, compared like the haves and the have-nots, and like who has opportunity, who doesn't, and like showed the difference. Pretty big twist in the middle of the movie with the guy living down in the basement. It's really cool to see how they all like manipulated this family to get their jobs. And then like any, good movie, everything's going good. And then all of a sudden it just goes to shit on you. And then you got to deal with that. Thought it was really good. I recommend it. It's out on Amazon. You can rent it now. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 9.5 bubbling toilets. It's disgusting, but it's so good, you guys. And so watch Okja, watch The Host, watch Mother, watch this director / writer's other movies. He's amazing, and this movie is amazing. I mean, hopefully you've seen it if you're listening to all of this business, but it's so well done. I also went in completely blind, and my expectation was there's going to be some sort of creature like in the movie The Host, but there wasn't, and it was so good. I really enjoyed it. So, absolutely recommend it. It deserves all the accolades it's getting, and I love horror thrillers that aren't expected. Mark, is there anything else you want to say about Parasite?
No, that should about cover it. Yeah, I mean, I hope it does well. I hope it wins some awards, or at least gets, just having it being mentioned at the Academy Awards is pretty huge in my opinion. So I think it deserves it, and it's, a very creative movie. It's like a good, you don't really, at the beginning of the movie, they're folding pizza boxes for a living, and then they're all of a sudden they're all working for this rich family. So, I mean, it's a really, new idea for a movie, so I like that.
Yes, great premise. So, check out Parasite if you haven't already. If you need another recommendation, I've watched something and I'm late to the party, but it's on HBO and it's called Los Espookys, and it's produced by Lorne Michaels and Fred Armisen. It's this series, which is, 20, 30 minutes a piece episodes about this group of friends who love horror, and they start getting hired to create horror-themed events for people. The first event they create is a quinceañera, and then here's a spoiler alert, but I don't think it's going to give away totally everything. They create sort of an exorcism for a priest, and then a haunted house, and it's actually enjoyable. I started it being very skeptical. I'm like, well, I'll just see how long I can last. But I kept watching, and I finished the entire series in an evening. It's easy to do, and it was so enjoyable. I completely fell for it. So it might be laugh out loud funny to you. It might not be laugh out loud funny, but it's enjoyable. I got so much pleasure for it, so I would absolutely recommend it if you're a horror fan. It's available on HBO Go or HBO Now, and Los Espookys, it's mostly subtitled because it's in Spanish mostly. There are many English speakers in it, so it won't all be subtitled, but absolutely check it out. It's worth it, horror fans. Until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.